A child sits in a classroom, not learning algebra, not memorizing dates. Instead, the lesson is simple: how money really works. Interest, debt, inflation, risk. By the time the bell rings, the child understands something most adults never will: a pause. Imagine if every child on earth learned this. Imagine if ignorance about money disappeared overnight. The world would not just change, it would rearrange itself. Money decides where people live, who eats, who studies, who survives, crisis, and who doesn't. And yet, for most of human history, we never taught people how money truly works. Financial systems grew complex, opaque, powerful. Meanwhile, billions navigated them blind. So what if that changed? What if financial literacy became mandatory education worldwide? From childhood, across cultures, across borders? What would break first? What would finally be set free? Financial literacy is not about getting rich, it is about understanding systems. How banks create money, how interest compounds over time, how inflation quietly erodes savings, how risk moves through markets. Teaches one dangerous idea: that money is not magic, it is math, and math can be learned. Right now, financial ignorance is profitable. For lenders, for predatory systems, for opaque institutions. Mandatory financial education would flip that equation. Billions of people would suddenly recognize patterns: hidden fees, unfair interest rates, unsustainable debt cycles. What was once invisible would become obvious. And obvious systems cannot hide for long. Throughout history, knowledge has always shifted power. When literacy spread, empires trembled. When scientific education expanded, industries collapsed and reformed. Money knowledge has been different. It's stayed concentrated. It's passed quietly among elites, not because it was too complex, but because complexity protected power. The first generation raised on financial literacy behaves differently. They save earlier, borrow cautiously, question contracts. They understand opportunity cost. They delay gratification not out of fear, but strategy. Consumer culture slows. Impulse spending drops. Advertising loses its edge, because persuasion is weaker when understanding is strong. Debt does not disappear, but its nature changes. People understand compound interest before signing loans. They recognize long-term traps. Payday lending collapses. Exploitative credit systems shrink. Banks adapt or fail, because profit built on ignorance cannot survive awareness. Today, most people learn about money through mistakes. Late fees, bankruptcy, stress, financial trauma becomes normalized. But imagine a world where mistakes are fewer, where systems are navigated deliberately. The emotional relationship with money transforms. Fear gives way to control. Career choices shift. Students calculate return on education. Degrees are chosen strategically. Overpriced institutions lose prestige. Skill-based learning rises. The myth of follow your passion blindly evolves into align passion with sustainability. Education becomes an investment clearly understood. Markets react. Short-term consumption slows. Long-term investment grows. Speculation becomes harder. Bubbles inflate slower and burst earlier. Financial crises still occur, but fewer people are caught unaware. Systemic risk becomes visible sooner. Citizens begin asking dangerous questions. Why is national debt structured this way? Who benefits from inflation? Why are tax systems so complex? Budget transparency becomes unavoidable. Populations no longer accept vague explanations. Economic literacy turns into political pressure, not immediately. Knowledge does not erase inequality overnight, but it slows its acceleration. The poor lose fewer resources to traps. The middle class stabilizes. The wealthy face scrutiny. Because wealth, without explanation, no longer feels inevitable, feels engineered. Money stops being taboo. Families talk openly. Children understand limits and possibilities. Shame around finances dissolves. This alone reduces stress, anxiety, and conflict. Entire societies become calmer, not richer, but more secure. Not everyone benefits. Industries built on confusion fight back. Complex financial products rebrand. Lobbying intensifies. Misinformation spreads. Because knowledge threatens systems that rely on imbalance, education becomes political. But once people see clearly, they do not easily choose blindness again. Global trade becomes more balanced. Developing nations negotiate smarter. Predatory agreements are rejected. Local economies strengthen. Dependency decreases. The world remains unequal but less extractive. As people manage money better, they work differently. Overtime decreases, burnout slows. People trade consumption for time. A subtle shift occurs. Wealth stops being the only measure of success. Stability becomes the goal. Financial literacy teaches one final lesson. Resources are finite. Growth has limits. And systems must be sustainable or collapse. This understanding spreads beyond money to ecology, technology, politics. Economic thinking matures. Mandatory financial education would not create utopia. Crises would still happen. Greed would still exist. But fewer people would be surprised. Fewer lives would be destroyed by misunderstanding. Civilization would become harder to manipulate. If financial literacy became mandatory worldwide, the greatest change would not be economic, it would be psychological. People would stop seeing money as fate and start seeing it as a system, one that can be questioned, modified, improved, and systems that can be understood can be changed. If understanding money reshapes society, what happens when people finally understand power the same way?